Ole, ole, ole.
Welcome back to another live with Esoteric Nexus.
Hello.
I'm Whitney, and this is Brayden, and I hope everybody is staying warm and driving safe out there.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I got stuck behind some snow plows on my way here, but it's okay. Everything happens for a reason, right?
Slowing you down. That's talk about frustrations. Today we're talking about frustrations and how to get through them.
2025 has been weird. I feel like everybody that I have talked to has said 2025 has been what a year already, man.
You know, I have a theory behind that. You know how we talk about the pendulum swinging? You know how, I don't know if I've mentioned it on this live, but the idea behind things leveling themselves out. So, you know, you've got something in opposition that's like really been there for a long time, and then watching the pendulum swing the other way, trying to find that balance. It's like a sharp uptake to break away from the long hold, right? And then the sharp uptake is too much, and then the balance comes back in, and then you find the happy medium between the two. And I feel very strongly that 2025, and this could just, I mean, the number 25, it's 1/4 of 100. And if you think about pendulum swinging in 1/4 increments versus a whole year increment, I think the pendulum is going back and forth between the two, and that's why we're seeing a lot of one things and the other, and it's back and forth, and there's no rhyme or reason, and not a lot of consistent flow, if you will, because we're finally within this next, I don't know, I'd say 5 to 10 year span, are really going to be coming into a balance as far as humanity is concerned. Or not. It could be a little
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I don't either.
I feel like I don't know how to feel. All the things that I've accumulated and all the knowledge that I have, it's not a bad thing, and we know that.
I'm really loving my 2025.
It's something, man. It's something.
I'm excited. You know,
I still stand behind the whole, like, there is a lot of energy. It is an action year. You know what? There we go. I feel like it's all about decisions. And that's what we're seeing.
I 100% agree. Well,
and not making a decision is a decision.
And if you don't have to make one,
and we're seeing results. I feel like we're seeing results quickly.
But that's kind of part of it, right? Like, as humanity gets pushed
quickly, but not quickly enough.
But we don't want it too quickly, right?
No,
because as humanity gets pushed towards enlightenment, like that, and then if you want to get into the idea of the 3D and the 5D world splitting, or Earth splitting into 3-dimensional, 5-dimensional, it's not necessarily a physical. We are going to have 2 physical Earths, and people will be divided. But it's in terms of vibration frequency. Right? There are 2 separate frequencies. There's a 3D frequency, there's a 5D frequency. And those of us who are making the choices to find higher self, if you will, to really become in alignment with your own truth, you are going to find yourself in that 5D atmosphere. But part of that is, like, I'm not going to say we're towards the end of things, but we're towards the end of an era, and we're stepping into a new one. And in order for that new one to take off, it's going to propel forward. And the only way to do that is to push people into uncomfortability, to see where they truly want to stand. And that's why we're seeing the division, if you will.
I mean, I can see that because, like, you know what I didn't do? I didn't get microphones today. But as you're speaking of, like, 1/4 of 100, you know, a decade is 10 years. And if we're in 2025, then we're halfway through a decade, moving into another decade.
Decade is 100 years, but yes.
Okay.
Or no. Decade is 10 years. Are you talking a century then?
Yeah.
Okay.
So a century is 100 years. A decade is 10 years. We're in 2025.
Oh, so we're halfway through a decade.
Yeah, so we're moving forward into the
and we're
last
1/4 of a way through a century.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's wild to think about. All right, let me get back to
Are y'all done? Brought out the hookah? Yeah, we did, Steph. I'm plugging in.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. So, microphone right there.
So
Microphone turned off again. It's like I gotta turn it on and then wait. It doesn't blink. It's green.
okay.
Charm? Or is it this cold weather and the batteries?
Do those charge in Type C's? Or do they? Okay, cool. So, I don't know if it'll come around. But... Excuse me, guys.
All right, two of the 4 microphones are dead.
Oh my gosh, I got such a nicotine buzz all of a sudden.
Woo woo. You know, you said something about vibrations and frequencies, and I'm gonna say Alan Watts said something about the one thing that I believe the actual speech itself is called "The One Thing We Should All Know."
The one thing we should all know before we learn our ABCs
is that everything is a frequency. We are all a frequency. All the things that we feel, those are frequencies. And you don't see people running around with fronts but no backs, or coins with heads but no tails, unless they're specifically made. You don't understand black without white. It's contrast. Vibrations. All life is ups and downs, waves and crests.
Sides to sides, back and forths. It's, and think about it. I mean, I'm going to get a little Christian here, but like, Bible talks about how, or Christ talks about how, like, we all came down here to experience life, with the weird conundrum of also following stricter rules to make it back to heaven. Yeah, that's neither here nor there. But the fact that it's in there that says we're here to experience life means very much in my brain that, like, we are here to know what the experiences of life is. The ups, the downs, the backs, the forths, the lefts, the rights. It's not about dodging them. It's not about getting your life so good that you never have to experience hardship again. It's about learning how to experience hardship in in a productive way. I don't want to necessarily say positive. Sometimes you don't need positive when you're seeing the negative.
I don't know. In the same sense, it's learning to go with the flow instead of trying to fight the current.
It's recognizing that, like, the amount of importance and experience has on you is based off of your own choice to take it on, right? Like, holy crap, maybe that's why I view death so differently from most, and I don't have the same grieving process, because I don't take it on so heavily, you know? Like, it's an experience. I'm here to acknowledge it, see it happening. Granted, my feelings are starting to come more into place, so it's got a whole nother level of taste to that whole comment I just made, and things are a little bit different, but that's how I used to experience death. It was very much...
That's oh my gosh, okay, so before, what was it? Just the other day, man, I was sitting down with the boys and we were talking and about how 2025, well, just the last couple months have been a lot of feelings. That, we've had some people die, and then the boys have gotten a promotion, and then one of their friends got in a car accident, and then one of the boys is talking to a new lady. There's these good things happening, and then there's these really bad things happening, and it's all over the place. And it's just like, what is happening? And with this last death, my son was saying that he feels a little weird about it, because it's not so much has happened that he almost feels numb. And I'm like, perspective
is huge.
If this happened 4 or 5 years ago and we were experiencing what we're experiencing now, I feel like we all would be a little more anxious. We would be struggling a lot more to deal with the things that we're dealing with, and with all the things that we've learned and gone through, all those rough things that keep happening, we learn how to not let it just crush us when it happens. And then when the good things happen, we can take that and we can hold on to it a little longer. And when that bad things happen, or that bad thing happens next time, your friend gets in a car accident, you can hold to that thing that just happened that's really good. And, bad things happen, good things happen. In reality, I feel like everything is neutral. Everything is meaningless until you give it meaning.
Mm-hmm. And even the bad things that are happening, man,
it feels so powerful. But like when your friend got in that car accident,
and when things happen to other people, I like to do a little bit of, I don't think introspection is quite the right word, but I like to think about, like, where is their life at? Like, what's going on in their life that this happened? And I'm not saying, oh no, karma, but to some extent, karma, a lesson, an opportunity, like, think about it. If you have to let go or make space for things for your growth, that means letting go of old habits, friends that don't serve your purpose or aren't growing with you. Like, it's a painful thing, and it can be viewed as negative. It can be viewed as your life being torn at the seams and you've got nothing left. So, and that's how a lot of us will take those instances. On the flip side of that, though, like, it's making space. And if you don't make space, God will make space for you. And you get the opportunity to be able to work towards things. But sometimes things need to be hastened because you're not going fast enough and you're not recognizing your own true potential. Sometimes things are slowed down because you're going too fast with it, and you got to take a couple of breathers, really build that foundation. Sometimes it's something like so far ahead of our own future we don't recognize. Like, we don't recognize what bullet we dodged until maybe even years later. So I guess it's not just refocusing your perspective on the negative things that are happening and finding the good or seeing the lesson or seeing the growth potential. But if you can't find anything good going on in the situation that you're in, that gives you two things: that lets you know that you yourself have to make changes, or B, it means you've just got to be patient and wait it out, because the thing that is the whole reason behind it is coming. And along the way, while you're waiting it out, it's learning how to not so emotionally invest in the current experience that it drowns you. Like, I deal with seasonal depression, and I really thought it was seasonal because of lack of sunlight. And I think there's some truth to that, but it's very much perpetuated with also, like, I don't make as much money during the depressional season time. It's not as openly available to me to be able to just do the things. And so that is something that adds on to dealing with the seasonal depression. And so, it gives you time to introspect and see where the things are that you're like holding on to, what you're holding on to, why you're holding on to it. Do you need to hold on to it? Has it served its purpose?
Crystal said, what are your tips for taking moments one at a time or slowing down to see the positive in life?
Can I take this one?
Go for it.
I have, so actually Whitney was talking to me today about how she had a bunch of stuff going on, and I could feel the bombardment energy coming from her. She felt like she just had a million things happening all at once, right? And if that's something that you can relate to, you feel like you've got a lot going on, you don't know how to displace it to see what you really want to work with. I like to picture myself building energy from my chest or from my body, and then it's like a sticky energy, right? And so it pushes all of my issues all the way out past hand's reach. It's nowhere near my little bubble, but I'm not pushing it away to make it disappear, because you got to deal with it, right? So then it's seeing, all right, I've got this big energy field I just pushed out of me. I've got all of these issues, and they're stuck like flies on a fly trap.
And you're thinking this through, and you're breathing, yep. Just and while you're experiencing it.
And you get to take a moment and look at all of them. There's something about your mind space having space. I know all these things are happening, and you can't physically push them out of your way. But if you give your brain the illusion that they're not directly in your face, then you can start looking at each one of them. Maybe it's starting with which one gives you the most anxiety, and then asking yourself, all right, is it because it's a time constraint or because it's taking the most energy from me? And you can start categorizing it, and you'll start to break it down, and you'll see what's really important to take care of first, or what's easiest to take care of first. Like, sometimes it's not about what needs to be done right now. It's about the little things that you can get off your back, so you don't have to put your energy to those things, and they're like 5 minutes worth of work. So for my own example, like today, I had like a mental breakdown with my money situation. It was like, it happens a lot, and you've got your manifesting, and you've got your keeping it positive, and like, yeah, cool, you tell me keep it positive and change my perspective all day, but until like you do it, how do you do it? And it's recognizing that when I know I don't have as much money in my wallet, that I'm going to take on negative feelings, and then it's recognizing that those negative feelings come from a place of lack. It's recognizing that lack makes me feel worthless. It's recognizing that I feel worthless because I'm tied to a monetary thing. So once I've got all that figured out, I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm putting too much weight and emphasis on something that I feel is out of my control. So then I got to go back, and this is where self-belief comes in. Faith in self. Having faith is huge. Like, there's a lot of gaps where we don't know what's going on, and we just got to ride it out, right? So for me, it was just like, all right, my bills are for the most part taken care of. I've got a few more coming up. I've got 2 or 3 weeks before I really have to stress about how much money I've got coming in. And then it turns around, and I'm like, all right, cool. So while that's happening, what are things that I can do to be productive? Well, I can get my house clean. A clean house makes you feel like you're in a safer place, a place that doesn't feel as stressful. It's not pulling your energies, which gives you more energy to deal with the issue at hand. And then from there, it's like, all right, cool. So I got that done. I did a little bit of self-care, got the shower done. And then I just started talking to myself like, all right, moving forward, like, where do you think your next money should be coming from? What can you do? Are you in a place where you can do anything, or is it like the hurry up and wait game? If it's the hurry up and wait game, then take a breath, sit in it. allow yourself to relax for a moment. The world isn't going to end. You're here now. You've been here for the last 30 some odd years. It's always worked out. It may not work out the way you want, but you're in a better place now than you were. And if you're in a better place now than you were, then past actions dictate that your future is going to be better anyways. So just take a deep breath, do what you got to do to distract yourself for the moment. And then like 3 hours later, I got a phone call saying that I had a job tomorrow. So it took the edge right off. But it's really learning how to get your heart, your mind, and your actions all in synchronicity. If even one of those is not playing its part in the whole, the manifestation takes longer to happen because you're giving it mixed signals. Think about it. Your heart it's the amplifier, it's the generator. It's what pushes out the energies that your brain is thinking about, that your heart is feeling. And then your actions solidify what you're truly feeling. So if your actions aren't in line with your feelings, then there's contention. There's no, like, you're basically telling the universe, I want it and I don't want it at the same time. Does that help? That was a lot. I word vomited like a lot. But yeah.
It was good.
Thank you.
As far as like slowing down to see the positive in life, slowing down to see the positive in life, I think the easiest way to go about that is to breathe. Take a moment and breathe. So particularly as far as like today's topic is like the 2025 is feeling weird and the last couple months have been feeling like so crazy. I've had moments over the last like couple months where things have been going good and then bad and then good and then bad and just all over the place. It's like, whoa. And when I feel those whoa moments, like, oh gosh, all this is happening to me. It's happening to me. I can stop in that moment and be like, what is going on? And then the things that make me feel those intense feelings, like the death of a friend, the friend getting in a car accident, a job promotion, and then whatever else. There was good. That was nice. And be grateful for that moment. Finding things to be grateful for, even in the bad. I know you got something else on this, but as far as Crystal's question, finding ways to be positive in the moment is to be grateful. The more you are grateful for the things, the easier it is to take what happens as life happening instead of this happened to me.
And
this happened.
Being grateful doesn't mean brainwashing yourself. Being grateful is a practice in humility, understanding, and recognition. As you choose to be grateful for the little things, and it starts with the little things because they're the easiest, but as you are
I don't even call it brainwashing.
Hold on. I'm getting there. Because as like, you can sit there and in your mind have something really shitty happen to you and be like, I'm just so grateful for this opportunity to learn. I'm so grateful. And you were like trying to get yourself in that mindset of like being grateful. You were like forcing it, right? But I don't think that is
it's real easy to find the negative. So it's practicing finding the positive. It's not purposely making it positive because we're doing that. It's more about being in the moment.
And seeing the
slowing down is just being here. Right now, I'm sitting here. I feel my hands.
Well, and
I'm breathing. There is, the house might be a mess, but you know what? Right here over on that counter, I have an open area to make food, and that is something I can be grateful for. I don't have to clear off that counter.
Well, and gratitude, it should be felt. It shouldn't be instilled in the brain. I'm not saying you can't, but I'm saying like the overall effect of what you are trying to gain from gratitude is the feeling of gratitude. I'm like, I don't have a lot of money, but I've got food in my fridge. Great. That's awesome. It's not the food that I want, and that's kind of a bummer, but it's food that I know I'm going to like once I cook it. Okay. All right, cool. So like I can be stoked in that manner, and then I can like, oh, now I can get creative and I get to learn a new recipe. And if it's good, it's something I can share with others. It's something I can look forward to the next time I'm going to cook, not only because it's simple, but it tastes good. So it's building the little bits of gratitude to get the full picture of the feeling of being grateful, because being grateful is an energy that allows for more to come your way. And it's not because gratefulness is the key to having more come your way. It's because gratefulness puts you in a frequency that allows you to be open to receiving.
Yes.
And I would like to take a step back and go back to your whole things happen to you in life. And I have a hard time with that sentence. I don't like to look at my life as things are happening to me, good or bad.
Yes. So like when I'm feeling that, that's when I got to stop myself. That was like a check engine light. Oh boy.
Yeah. Like
things are happening to me. Like, that's not what happens.
You should never, you should try to get out of the mindset of things are happening to me. Things are happening around
That's when
me.
I know I'm doing a pity me moment. Yeah.
But when things are happening around you, and here's the cool thing, perspective is everything. Words hold power. The way you speak to yourself, to others.
Taking the observer seat instead of the driver's seat, I feel like really does.
And the big thing for that is, how do you get to the observer versus the driver? Instead of looking at it as things are happening to me, it's things are happening. And I get to choose which things that are happening I'm going to pull into my life, and to what degree. Am I going to go balls deep and dive into the ocean of this madness, or am I going to just acknowledge it from existence? Maybe my toe
do
in
I
the
have
water?
Control over this?
I don't even ask if I have control anymore. Control is an illusion.
That helps me in the when I've got all this stuff going on. Do I have control over this? No. Okay, then stop fretting about it. You don't need to worry about it. You can't do anything about that. What do you have control over?
Your own thoughts, actions, and choices.
How I do this. This is what I have control over. Okay. Then I can make sure that this is good. This part works well because I can do this.
And then, like, as far as like ways to handle the frustration, many meditations, a mantra. Man, one of my I go through mantras a lot. Hurry up and wait was one for like 5 freaking years.
Because words have power.
They do. They hold a lot of power, and how you view yourself, how you view the world, is very much key to how you get to experience your life. Man.
Things happen to me. I get to do this.
Things happen for me.
I have to pay bills.
I get to
Braden got to put the new perspective. I am blessed enough to have enough money to pay this bill.
Ooh, I think that's gone. Yuck. Ouch. Oh, yuck.
It's been a minute. I think that's an hour old.
Yeah.
It could probably be stirred.
I don't even think there's enough to have it stirred.
Oh.
That's really okay. Rough, and there's ice cubes in there. Sorry for the interruption. Absolutely not. I don't vape, thank you.
You just tobaccoed.
I know, and that's very seldomly. Yeah,
that was a lot.
That was. I needed it. Get your brain going. See, this right here. This is like one of my practices that I like to use when, not so much like when life is getting too hard, but like when I really just need a moment. Like, I think that's why a lot of people smoke. It's not so much the nicotine or the pot smokes as much as it's the ritual that you're going through.
It's an intention. You have to blow out and deep breath in.
Exactly. You are inadvertently practicing breathing techniques, and you guys, breathing techniques are huge. They're a pain in the ass, and they take a little bit of a lot bit more concentration.
What do you do when you're stressed out and you get that cigarette, you pack it, you light it, and
take one big ass rip and you hold it.
And then that exhale is like, oh, thank goodness.
And you'll get the same effect without it, if your intentions are where they need to be with it, and you're not just like
a head high from doing breathing exercises.
Well, breathing exercises,
you get dizzy from holding your breath.
They can also induce states of psychedelics, if you will. You can hallucinate on breathing techniques if they're done properly, and like that's a whole thing, and that's like its own dive into. But like if they have that potential, and it's proven they have that potential, then breathing really is a key source of doing a lot of
I mean, just for all the feelings that we're feeling, breathing, just intentional breathing, a 4 count. Breathe in for 4, hold it for 4, let it out for 4.
And then back. And then you get to get creative. How is this energy that you're blowing and expelling
or 3,
out
4,
working?
3.
You know, like I like to picture pulling energy out from the earth through my body, out my mouth, back down into the earth, and that's its cycle. So I get to pull new energy with every breath. I get to expel old energy back into the earth so that it can neutralize and become usable energy for whatever purpose. And like giving it intention in that manner will allow you to be able to feel the energy flow, and then you can get a little bit farther and you can start connecting. Like, all right, now I want to connect my stress. Like I did the breathing energy to bring myself to a level of being able to like be level minded. Now I can feel where all the stress in my body is, and I can push it into my breathing cycle, and that stress can leave me, go into the earth, and I can pull new energy that's going to release the tension that I'm feeling, and that's going to come out with the next breath. So like you can build upon this. You start simple and
breathing.
Boom,
the breathing exercise, what is it? There's the special diaphragm nerve through the breathing exercises that will actually help lower your blood pressure and help release the anxiety and help you through it. Mm-hmm. So just practicing breathing. And I swear, I feel like there's so many things that come back and they're retesting me, and I have just gotten to the point where I'm really good at recognizing them, and then I get to work through it again, and I get to make the best choice I can this go around.
And you know what's beautiful? Sometimes
it's almost like I don't want to say, it's one perspective, but I feel like I've been like having little mini panic attacks occasionally over the last couple months, experiencing everything the way it is, the flexing.
I gotta take this away or I'm gonna accidentally.
And I could almost say that I can just easily recognize it now.
That's beautiful. That's kind of the point.
So I have to more intentionally practice breathing through when I feel my heart racing and that overwhelming feeling welling up, and remember to breathe through it, and it levels back out and it comes back down. I'm like, okay. But why am I feeling this again? Why is it coming back? Doesn't it go away? No, we have anxiety, and that's okay. And we've learned how to live with it and work with it, and it doesn't rule my life. I am not anxiety.
Well, and eventually it will go away. You know, no, I 100% like Whitney. If you can kick an addiction for good, and if addiction can no longer rule your life, it's never a thing anymore. Then you can your nervous tics, your anxiety,
call it what you will, but you'll still feel anxiety. You'll still feel cravings. No,
that's not true, because I don't crave cigarettes. Not once. And I quit back when I was in my 20s.
Not cigarettes, but you crave things. But be it chocolate.
And your cravings are your addictions.
You will struggle
with.
But
here's what I'm saying. But here's what I'm saying. If I could get rid of my addiction to cigarettes when I was smoking 2 packs of Camel non-filters a day, and that almost not being enough, to being in a state where I never feel the need for a cigarette, I never feel, oh man, a cigarette would be great right now. Oh man, I could really use that release. Like, that part of me is gone. It doesn't exist. And if I can do that with an addiction, I can do that with anxiety. I can do that with stress. It might take longer because you got to work through it all. But anxiety is its own trauma trigger. There's something there that has to be worked through, and you got to get deep in it. And sometimes it's multifaceted. Sometimes you think you might have found the main root of it.
You can't forever get rid of a feeling. Sadness will exist. Well, happiness will exist.
Sadness
How
exists.
you deal with it will change.
I don't know.
My perspective on it.
I agree with you on that. But I don't think
addiction is a feeling.
But addiction. But an addiction and an anxiety are a byproduct feeling. They come because of something, right? And if you got rid of that something, they wouldn't be there. An
underlying issue.
And once that underlying issue is handled, then it won't be there.
But you'll still have to learn how to deal with sad feelings.
But sad feelings is different. Sadness is its own
You'll still have to deal with, you're not supposed to be eating that whole entire chocolate cake, but man, you really want to. Craving.
Yeah.
And you work through that because you know how to like let go of a pack of cigarettes.
There will exactly. That's what that's what I'm saying. So then if food was your addiction, if your food was addiction, you could get to a point where food
you'll
would
struggle with a feeling like that. Because you worked through the cigarettes, you're not going to approach that chocolate cake the same way that you did the cigarettes because you worked through that feeling and that addiction or whatever you want to call that feeling.
But what I'm saying, Whitney, is like, if I had that addiction to chocolate cake and I wanted the whole cake and I was going to feel bad about wanting to eat the whole cake, so I don't eat the whole cake, then I recognize that I have a food addiction. If I recognize that I have a food addiction, then I got to learn how to work on my relationship with food. Once I've learned how to work on my relationship with food, that addiction goes away because you have a different understanding and respect for the food. And once you have that different understanding and respect for that food, then you're not going to view it in the same terms. That addiction will have been gone. Those cravings will have been kicked. They won't show up in that same manner.
I feel like we're going in circles.
Maybe. All I'm saying is you can get rid of it. If you can get rid of addiction, you can get rid of anxiety. And I will die on that hill. I will so die on that hill. And a lot of that, it comes from hearing about the 12-step program, and I'm not saying anything bad against it, but I do not like that they tell you you've got to live with your addiction for the rest of your life, that it's there forever, because it's not. It's so not. That is a perspective that you choose to hold on to or not. And if you're going to hold on to that perspective, you will fight it every day of your life for the rest of your life. But changing that perspective.
Not what you're addicted to, but you will always struggle. You will always encounter addiction. Be it to alcohol, be it to cake, be it to this, or a craving for this or that. If you can
get rid of one addiction, you can get rid of another. Right?
Perspective on it. If you can find a different relationship with the alcohol and with yourself and that feeling, then
the addiction is gone.
Whatever other. Oh man,
the addiction.
We're gonna have to do this off camera.
The addiction is gone after that. The addiction is gone. If you can work through one addiction, you can work through any addiction. And it may not be in the same pace as this addiction, but if you can work through one, you can work through another. And if you can work through those, and
I'm giving a different definition to something, and you're stuck on a different definition, and I don't want it. Yeah, that's where we're at.
That's where the impasse is.
Like you're not I don't think you grasp what I'm saying, and I don't know how to give it a.
You're making
You're
making it sound like once you have addiction, it's always there in different forms.
No, words are hard.
I know, that's why we have these conversations.
I mean, like depression.
Okay.
Or anxiety. Let's go with anxiety.
Okay.
Anxiety will forever exist. Like inside out, it's there.
Okay.
But you're not always struggling with it. It's not always a thing that you have to control. It's something that comes up. You will get anxious when this thing happens or this other thing happens. So I will always have anxiety.
So
I will always have sadness. I will always have happiness. And I'm not anxiety. I'm not a super anxious person. I don't want to label myself like that. I'm not that. Anxiety doesn't rule my life. Addiction doesn't rule my life. It comes up every once in a while. And we have a weird relationship.
We can't tie addiction into anxiety. We gotta stay with anxiety. Okay? Because with the way you're explaining, addiction can't fall into anxiety if that's how it's going. Because what you're saying is anxiety is a fixed feeling, it will always be there. Addiction is not a fixed feeling, and it will not always be there. Addiction, it comes up as a byproduct of not being able to regulate properly. But then you could say the same thing about anxiety, right? Like it's a condition that comes up from not being able to regulate properly.
Yeah, I mean,
but then again, but like you said, anxiety can always be there.
But I look at it like sadness, happiness. If you struggle with sadness, like depression, like some people have like chemical blah blah blah. There's lots of autism and everything else and ADHD. Like there's big umbrellas and different cases for everybody. But like sadness would be the root of depression. You will always have sadness, and how you treat it and how you react to it is what you need to work with for. or else depression will rule your life, and you are depressed, and you are depressed.
Depression, but I don't think depression is a direct result of sadness. I think depression shows itself as depression. It expresses itself as sadness, but I don't think that depression is rooted in sadness. Like, I mean, if I look at,
I'm just finding a simpler word for it.
But words are power.
You're right. I don't.
Definitions are everything, and I
think we're on the same page, though.
I think
you understand what I'm saying.
I don't think I'm here to argue with you. I think I'm just adding to what you're saying and maybe changing it a bit.
You are, and it's frustrating sometimes.
I know. That's
I like it.
Right back at you. You do it back to me.
I had a conversation with my husband the other night about this whole like feelings thing, and I feel like at some point he was like, "I'm not trying to purposely challenge you." And I'm like, I feel like I've heard a lot of people tell me that they're scared of me, and it's frustrating because I want people to challenge me or feel confident enough to be like, hey, it doesn't need to be like that. It doesn't have to be everything that you say, Whitney. Like, what about this? So when I'm challenged, I really like,
It's almost like a butting at.
Well, but what different. If,
Yeah.
But like,
it's like,
dang it, I think you're right. Oh, like.
It's like where I think that's where like speech and debate really like originated from. I think that was what was cool about people that had.
Are we arguing? Are we fighting? Are we mad at each other?
I think it's a little. I wouldn't say we're mad at each other, but arguing. I wouldn't say going on fighting.
I like
but
the word debate.
We're arguing points,
challenging views
to bring light to.
And that is why we're on this thing.
This is how it all started, guys.
Yeah.
Conversations like this.
Other people witnessing this and being like, you guys should just do a podcast. If you want to see the things we talk about and the way that we talk, sure. You know what? I guess we'll just do a live.
Sad. That, you're not wrong there. Like, maybe your depression could be rooted in sadness. It's probably different for most people. Depending on what it is. I mean, I guess that's really good that you say that, though, because that really drives home, like, brings back to the point of introspecting. Like, since it's not the same for everybody, what is it for you? And as you find out what it is for you, you can start taking the proper steps to really handle it. That's like what counseling therapy is all about. You're not going there to tell somebody your life story to have a pity party. And if you are, you're not going to get much out of it. But if you're going there to gain perspective, to be able to have somebody help you direct yourself within yourself, to find those things that are and aren't working for you, that's where you find your progress. That's what that whole spiel is really about. It's
my counselor told me that he's just giving me different kinds of tools to add to my toolbox. It's not about a permanent patient doctor thing. It's them giving you tools so that when you leave, because you're not always with the counselor, it's like every other week. So what do you do between that week? Well, you're supposed to be using the tools that he gave you to try and navigate our walks of life in a more peaceful manner. So it's not so difficult. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that was better worded.
That was like what we were both trying to say.
Yeah.
Other words. Exactly. Yes, adding to your tool belt. Like, gosh, guys, introspection is nothing more than mining in your own self psyche, right? Like,
when you're having those like overwhelming moments, or when you're just like, wow, so much has gone on, it's a really good time to like just stop. Like, yeah, what did happen? Or
like in the case of us going back and forth, one of us eventually having to let up and being like, all right, I'll just shut up and listen to everything so I can find the kernel of understanding. So then it can tie around, or I can just be like, oh, that's what you were trying to say. And that's where that eventually gets to with us. It didn't this time, not really. But, like recognizing, like, if you're frustrated because you can't get your point across, maybe it's because you're speaking at a level that is not theirs. And that doesn't matter if it's above or below. It's just not the same level. It's not the same frequency. So now it's regrouping and trying to get a feel for the frequency at which the other is speaking, because they are willing to give and come to an understanding of what you're doing. One or the other always has to come to an understanding first. And if it's not them, it's always going to be you. And that's okay. In fact, that gives you an edge. Like, if you don't like having to be the one that always does the things, think about it in terms of, if I understand before they do, then I have more of an, I don't want to say upper hand, but I have more of the ability to bring them back around than if it was the other way around, right? So Like frustration shows itself in many forms. There's many ways to work around your frustrations.
Man, I just need to get these words across, but I can't find the right word to like.
Where's the click word?
The things you're saying, and it's not what I'm trying to say. Hold on. I'm envisioning a 3D purple triangle with fuzz on it, but you're explaining a flat, 2-dimensional purple triangle that's silky, and that's not what I'm.
It's not the
how
same.
Can I get you to see what I'm seeing in here? And
I'll tell you, I was
so
a little
that you
bit,
also envision the same thing.
I was a lot bit more closed off to that conversation because I have a hill to die on. Like something to recognize, man. If somebody has a hill to die on, if somebody has a hill to die on, you gotta let them die on that hill before you can move forward. You know,
and that's where we're just not seeing. That's okay, and that's okay.
That's okay.
That's all right. I don't know how to change it, and that's okay too.
Yep.
Anyways, moving forward. But then we still did it anyways.
Well, it's good practice. Everybody gets to see. This podcast isn't like, we've got to go.
Well, let's work it out Wednesday, man. We worked it out, didn't we?
I think mostly. Yeah. I don't.
2025 is great. It is so.
I think this is a good year to practice your surrendering as much as you are practicing your choices. As you surrender to your choices or the conditions around your choices or to the conditions that you are currently finding yourself in. And I don't mean surrender as in allow somebody to walk all over you, but surrender as in quit fighting that moment.
Quit fighting the current.
Quit pushing.
Go with the flow.
Quit pushing in areas that you've been pushing in for so long and nothing's happening. It's time to change your pace. Surrender. Like if you want control in your life, then you've got to let go of control so you can experience surrender. Experiencing surrender allows you to experience the flow of the universe. When you can experience the flow of the universe and you know how it runs, then you can redirect. It's so much easier to redirect, to course correct what you're doing, what's going on, what's happening around you, because you're not there trying to like grasp it and hold it. Don't move. I know you need to go, but don't move. Like, you're like, oh, you know what? I don't want you to run into that wall. Let's give you a little nudge this way, whether it's words, whether it's actions, whether it's inaction. One of those three things are always going to direct the flow. And if one of those three things are words or actions that constrict, then there's no flow redirection. And when that happens, it's like putting too much water behind the dam. It's eventually going to burst. And when it does, it's going to be chaos. It's going to be hell. It's like holding on to the pendulum. The longer you hold on to it, the harder it's going to pull. And eventually it's just going to rip itself away. Or it'll be vice versa. You try to push it, keep that hard, heavy thing you got to deal with from hitting you. And you're just like, no. And eventually it's going to wash over you like a tidal wave. So instead of holding things in a place, it's allowing them to do their motion and seeing where you fit within that motion. Or even if you do.
Yep. I like what you said. It's not being complacent and not doing anything. Like the whole go with the flow thing doesn't mean you just lay back and let things happen. You still got to steer the boat. And if you don't like where it's going, you can pull the boat over off to the side. Like, okay, maybe I don't want to be in this one. I want to be in that one over there.
Like you see a whirlpool ahead doesn't mean, like you may not be able to dodge the whirlpool. You might still have to come, but doesn't mean you got to go right through the middle of it. You can skirt the edges and get away. You don't always have to fully involve yourself in every experience that's happening in your life.
Life happens.
And you get to choose what you want to experience and what you don't along the way.
You get to choose. Life is about choices, and not choosing is a choice.
And getting out of your own way, man. Like, quit giving yourself excuses for the hard choices. Honestly, you are you're going through it twice, for starters. When you start giving yourself excuses about the reason why you don't want to do things.
Explanation. Oh, that kills me.
You are like living it in your soul, and you're like, oh, I can't do this. And then you do the action, and sometimes you have to relive it. So you relive it twice, or you're living something completely different, and you realize you just wasted so much energy on something that didn't even freaking matter. Like, let go.
Or it wasn't even that bad.
Yeah, well, let go.
You stressed out so much. You put yourself through so much anxiety and stress and franticness.
I'm just gonna,
and it wasn't even that bad.
I'm gonna put it out there. A really big one is relationships. Letting go of a relationship that you think you need to be in because you're worried about how the other person's gonna react. Well, first off, it's not your freaking problem how they're going to react. That's on them, and it may not be conducive to how you want things to go. But man, being able to speak your piece, tell somebody how you feel about something, whether you want to walk away or you want to work on it, has power. It's liberating. It's justifying, and it fills a space in your heart that allows you to keep moving forward instead of sitting with the doubts and I'm worried about what they're going to say and what if they don't do it like this. Like, you're living through that anxiety and there's no need for it. Live through it once. Just take the action and see how it plays out.
Why are you upset? Why are you upset?
Yeah.
Because your inner you is pissed. It doesn't want to feel that way. It doesn't want to be disrespected. It doesn't want you to be treated like that.
And let's be real.
It's trying to protect you. Your anger is there to protect you. Your frustration is there to protect you.
And if you're feeling all of that, it's not at that person that's treating you that way. I mean, it is because they're treating you a way you don't want, but you teach people how to treat you.
You're allowing them to treat you that way.
So when you're having that inner angst and turmoil and that roar with yourself, you're upset with yourself because you're not choosing yourself. You're not loving yourself. You're not setting boundaries for yourself. You're just allowing somebody else to choose your life, choose how you're going to feel, and choose which way you're going to go about it. So until you can learn to come full circle with that, acknowledge that and be like, all right, I'm mad at myself because I'm not choosing me. But then you got to take the next step and be like, all right, I got to place a boundary. Well, boundaries are hard. We'll start with a small one. Start with a really small one. One that you can break 100 times over and re-put it there until you have gotten it still. I've recognized starting boundaries, people want to set the hard boundaries first. But man, it's not only is it the hardest, but if they break too many times, then nobody will take that boundary seriously. But if you start with a small boundary, that's not a big deal. And you work on that one and you hold yourself to that one. It doesn't matter how many times it breaks, you can reset it because it's not a big part of your life. And once you perfect that, then you can move on to things that are more heavy, more set in stone. And before you know it, you are putting big, thick walls in places where they need to be able to have a sturdy foundation of self.
Practice boundaries.
Practice them. You need them.
Just because it didn't work the first time doesn't mean we quit doing it. Setting boundaries is hard.
And setting boundaries is
recognizing that when you are feeling upset about the way somebody is treating you, that's an opportunity to recognize what boundaries should be in place so that you don't feel that way again.
Yeah.
That's a good time to recognize when you should be putting up a boundary.
And you shouldn't be afraid of conflict. Oof. You got
it's scary though.
It is scary, and it's always gonna be scary because we were taught that it's scary because we saw how our parents reacted to us. But look at this.
Scary nervousness is an opportunity to grow.
Let me give you a good chunk of ammunition though. All right, we're scared of confrontation and conflict because of how our parents reacted in our conflicted situations, right? Okay, we are now adults dealing with other adults that were treated like that as kids.
I don't look at myself as an adult sometimes.
Well, so they're going to have the same exact feelings towards conflict that you will. I mean, maybe not everybody. Maybe there are some people that really grew up with some good, healthy conflict in their lives and they're not afraid of it. Or they use it to bully, so it feels like they're not afraid of it. But if they haven't received it, especially if they haven't received it from you, they're not going to know how to take that. That's an opportunity for you to be able to direct, to guide what's going on with it. Be like, hey, I know I haven't said this, but I'm really sick of this and I'm done dealing with this. And then you can give yourself an out. And if you keep pushing this boundary and I can't set it with you, I'm gonna walk away. If I can't set a boundary with you, if you can't respect me, if you can't allow me to choose myself, then that's it, I'm done. And then you gotta follow up and you gotta walk away. You've gotta hold that boundary accountable. But I promise you, it will get you somewhere. And it doesn't mean you have to be done forever. Because sometimes you've got to, just like you got to walk away from a situation and let it cool down before you can come back to it. Sometimes you got to walk away from people and let them cool down before you come back to them to see if that can work. They've got to know you're serious.
I like to think of nervousness as my green neon sign that says opportunity for growth.
Ooh, yeah, I like
Anytime I feel real nervous, especially especially with conflict, because I was a huge people pleaser. I did not learn boundaries and how to deal with conflict when I was younger. I learned that as an adult. So when I get real nervous about dealing with people, because I have pushed through it many times and I know that it leads to growth, I have to remember that. And I still get real nervous. Well, first of all, guys, I get super freaking nervous every time before I start this live. Every time. I'll tell you.
Oh yeah.
I have to do breathing exercises and like, okay.
She gets the jitters, guys.
We're about to start.
We're gonna do the things. And over here, like,
and it's exciting. It's exciting. I'm nervous. It's growth. It's an opportunity for growth. It's gonna be okay at the end of it. It might not be okay in the middle of it, and that's okay. But you'll make it through it. Conflict isn't going to kill you. I mean, there's other situations where it could, but just a little disagreement or starting a conversation with somebody that isn't going to be a pleasant conversation. Yep. Isn't going to kill you.
And if you keep in mind that somebody isn't being pleasant towards you in that conversation, you're seeing the level of respect that they have for you. And in that moment, you get to choose how much of that you're going to put up with. And that can always change, you guys. It doesn't matter how much somebody has treated you a certain way in the past up to the present. At any moment, you can make the choice to change that and view it differently and hold them accountable. You can do that. You're allowed to. You can hold yourself accountable. You're holding yourself accountable more than you're holding them accountable. And by looking and seeing the actions and the feedback that they're giving you, you're seeing where they're at emotionally, mentally with you. So you can make a better judgment on where you're going to go with this. Is this a conversation that's worth having right now? Is this a conversation that needs to be had? Have I already beaten the horse dead on this one and still kept going? Like,
you get to decide how long you stay in that loop.
Yep. You can break that cycle at any time. And it's the hardest, but
one
the
choice
most liberating
will stop you and take you somewhere else, and you're not going to be in the same spot.
And it's
your
never,
choices.
It's never too late.
I feel like that's what 2025 is about.
And it's
guys.
never too late.
Just all these choices.
You guys,
I think that's frustrating, man. I think that's my biggest frustration is that I have so many choices that I can make, and I gotta choose which one to make. But sometimes, I just got reminded that I don't have to make all the choices right now. And if I want to, I can change my mind some of these times. Some of these choices aren't going to have crazy side effects where I'm not going to be able to try XYZ over here.
But I think a part of that happens when you find, you discover one of your passions, and then you see all its opportunities and possibilities, and you really, we're humans, we want the best of everything. So we try to pick that best course of action. And sometimes it's hard to let go of our ego and realize, even though that's our passion, it doesn't mean it needs to go in the way we first perceived it. We're here for the process, guys. You're not here to choose your process. You're here to choose something and watch the process be revealed. And as you go through that process, you'll realize, oh, okay, these are the steps that I can take. These are other steps I can take. Oh, this branches me this way. This branches me that way. No one process is a straight line to the end goal. Every process has offshoots that allow you different experiences and opportunities. And eventually you'll get to that end goal. And maybe that one that you saw, it just all lines up and it gets you from point A to point C in one going. Damn, man, that's awesome. Great. Good for you. One less thing that you have to stress through getting to the end. But on the flip side of that, if you get the ones where you're branching off in a million directions, you're taking so much experience with you that when you get to the top, it opens up even more opportunities for you. So even though it's not going the way you think it should go, doesn't mean it's something you should give up on. It just means maybe you got to change your approach, change your perspective, change where your starting path is.
We are in the first week of February. So I feel like it's worth mentioning that we just finished January for starters. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but we just finished January. Isn't that crazy? It doesn't feel like we just finished January. It feels like we finished 3 months.
You're not wrong. Yeah, January was so fast, but so long, all in the same go.
Yeah.
I felt like it came and went, but I also, I felt like I lived lifetimes in January.
I feel like a lot of people will feel pretty rough right now and defeated because a lot of us set a bunch of New Year's resolutions, and now we're through the month and it's been difficult. It's been hard.
but
maybe you failed it a couple times. Maybe you gave in a few times, and now because you gave in a few times, it just doesn't feel like it's worth it anymore. Like a lot of people set weight loss goals and you're not seeing results yet. So, you know what, just give up.
Yep. Or you're just tired of the amount of energy you're putting into it. And I'll tell you, if you feel like you're putting too much energy into your New Year's resolution, it's probably because you've picked, it's like you're reaching for the sun before you can even see the moon. Like maybe, like for example, like I would really love to lose 20 pounds and get in the best shape of my life, but have I addressed my eating habits? Can I even afford the eating habits I need to have? Have I addressed my workout schedule? Is it the workout schedule I want, or is it one that was suggested to me? So, sorry, kiddo. So, you know, it's maybe recognizing that the goal that you want is something that needs baby steps taken first. So instead of giving up on your New Year's resolution, it's scaling it back.
Yes, it's that perspective that you gave from my morning routines, taking on so much, and it just because it's not working out right now, just reassess it.
Yeah,
just reassess it, draw it back a little bit, and make it work for you so that.
Yeah, your energy, your morning routine is a great one. Like not everything in your morning routine is going to stick, and that's okay. You're just experimenting. You're exploring with it. What works, what doesn't. Like you might find something that sticks with you for months, and then it just drops off. That's okay.
You might be focused on the number, and it turns out it's that scale is really depressing you because you're not seeing the numbers change. So focusing on your eating habits is probably going to make you feel a little bit better. And then you're not so stressed about focusing on the numbers. And now you're just enjoying the foods that are different, that are good for your body, that make you feel more energetic, that give you the feeling that you wanted. You might have been focused on the clothing size or seeing your body shrivel, but taking care of your body and turning it into a self-love act, or just
appreciating the accomplishments that come with it.
Your whole New Year's resolution shifted, and now you're just focusing on being healthy.
Yeah, well, and what's really cool is like your New Year's resolutions, it's like a guide mark. All right, I'm gonna go video game status here. You know, when you're in an RPG
I got
world,
goosebumps.
when you're in an RPG world, when you're running around on
just open because you map. Said guide mark.
Yeah, that's what it is. Like you're running around on an open map. You're trying to get to a place that you haven't discovered. There's no landmarks near it, so you have to put that little marker there that just magically puts it there, and you can follow the map all the way until you get to that marker, right? And then everything's all hunky dory. Well, it's kind of the same thing. Like you're marking a destination. You're focused on the
destination, but the destination wasn't important. It was the journey.
You know, well, and in that journey, you might realize like, oh man, where I was trying to get to, I'm climbing a mountain, but you know, there's a little path through this mountain 5 feet over. And I wouldn't have noticed that if I wouldn't have taken the time to not be so worried about getting to my destination as much as like what's in my vicinity, what's going on with it. You know, so when you're setting your New Year's resolutions, you're setting a guide marker down on a spot you want to achieve. It doesn't mean you know the right path to get there. It doesn't mean, you know, I mean, if you want to climb the mountain, climb the mountain. Some people, like, that's their thing. And
maybe you just found out you like climbing. I don't know.
And then you don't even have to get to the destination. You can take that marker off of your map and you can just be happy with what you've already discovered. Gosh, I can't tell how many times I've said that.
That's really like, you know, fighting the current. You wanted to go here, and the whole time you're going here, it feels so hard. You're getting all this resistance. But if you just go with the flow and not focus on the New Year's resolution was losing 50 pounds, and I found that this whole like nutrition thing is really working for me. I'm feeling better about myself. I have energy, and you know, even if I'm not fitting the pant size that I want, I feel better in my clothes. I really feel a lot better in my clothes.
Well, and then you can look at it from the standpoint, it's like, man, I really, not only is this doing good for me, but I enjoy the fact that I don't have to figure out what I'm going to eat, or it's easier to meal prep.
Yeah, because now you're meal prepping.
Yeah, you know, like it allows you to branch into other things. And that's where that gratitude really comes in and serves its purpose for you.
Ooh,
because then you don't lose sight of the big picture. You can take in all the little, you can appreciate and see what it's accumulating to. And then it really gives you a good idea of where you're moving to past that. Like, oh, okay, man, I got all these things, and oh, I don't even have to go that direction. I can go this. Okay, I can do this. I can come back at it from this angle. And that just makes so much more sense. I think I'm going to get a lot more out of it if I go this direction. Well, let's just go do some exploring and see where it takes us. You may never actually get to your endpoint. You might find a different endpoint on one of your sidebars. It takes you somewhere totally unrelated, but totally more of where you want to be. You just got to get excited with life. Get excited to explore.
Life is about the ups and the downs. You don't see people with fronts but no backs, no black without white.
Live your life in the gray. Between the black and the white. My mom was always, I'm a black or white creature, Braden, and it's either right or it's wrong. And that's how I lived a big portion of my childhood. And one day I looked at her and I was like, Mom, it's got to suck for you because you had a child born living in the gray, and I'm going to take from the black and I'm going to take from the white and I'm going to move forward as such. It blew her mind.
The fronts and the backs, they exist as one.
And there's always a meshing of colors.
The black and the white. Still part of a one.
And it's a whole different way of living your life. I don't know. Mom always tells me, God hates a fence sitter. And I always have to look at her and be like, you're not wrong. It's a good thing I'm not sitting on anything. Well, by living in the gray, Braden. I was like, but living in the gray isn't living on the fence, Mom. I chose a side. And my side is right here in the middle. It's walking that line, knowing how much of the good I need in my life and how much of the bad is going to be coming through my life to where I can be able to work and alchemize all of it. I don't want to have to ignore the bad. I don't want to have to just see the good. I want to be able
good
to.
Good or bad. It's just life. This is life.
Yep.
And it's all about making choices.
Yep. Choices.
Oh, 25 is going to be wonderful. I'm so excited for spring. Also, since it's the first week of February, book club
is tomorrow. 7 o'clock.
Yes, and we are picking a new book.
Oh.
We're picking a new book. I was going to throw it out there that maybe for picking the books, if we met up at a coffee shop or we just met together to pick the new book, I think it'd be cool. I think that'd be awesome.
Are we still going to have the Zoom meeting?
Yeah, we'll still have the Zoom meeting.
Okay.
But
yeah,
just like the lives, it'll be up, but we'll be doing it.
Cool. Where do you want to go? Well, we can talk about that afterwards.
Let's go to Octopus Inc. because they're going to close. So let's go to Octopus Inc.
We got to call them and see if we can set that up for tomorrow.
It's not. Oh, shoot, it is tomorrow. Okay.
Maybe we should just do a coffee shop. We could just do a city brew. They're everywhere. They're easily accessible. They're pretty open to allow
Where are
for
we
your own
gonna
spaces.
Where are we gonna meet?
Oh, woman, I can't. My little child. She called me 15 times today. I tell her you can't call me.
You know what? I'll post it. When we're gonna meet at a coffee shop. We're gonna meet up, and I'll still do the Zoom and book club tomorrow, 7 p.m.
Talking about the
I'll post the link tomorrow afternoon. We're going to talk about the book that we've been reading, and we're going to pick a new book.
You guys,
anybody new who joins, you can throw one of your favorite books in, and we'll add it to the little pot, and we'll draw a book from it.
And you guys, The Alchemist is only a 4-hour read, and I'm not saying you can hurry up and listen to it tonight and get it done, but you could get into like an hour, half an hour, and have plenty to discuss tomorrow. If you're feeling like, oh, I want to join the book club, but I didn't read the last book, it'll feel weird. Maybe I'll just wait till like just get in on the book club. They have little synopsises
of it too.
Yeah,
on YouTube.
Just get in on the book club. There's going to be so much talk about it. You don't even have to know anything to really be able to grasp what's going on with it. And it'll be The Alchemist, especially, will be a really fun time to talk about tomorrow. So don't miss it. Show up. Be a part of it. Grow the community, guys.
So excited. Thanks for joining us today, guys, on all of the wonderful new people that have joined Esoteric Nexus.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Again, my name's Whitney, and this is Braden, and we are Esoteric Nexus.
And that concludes our show. Our live,
podcast,
or whatever you want to call it. It feels so weird to have to tell people, like, I got a live I'm doing. I'm doing a Facebook Live with my friend, and like, what is that?
No.
I
gotta go do my live.
I have to go do my live.
Mm-hmm.
It feels so like
official
context. I feel like it doesn't explain enough to people. What do you mean my live? What is a my live? Like on Facebook. What's a my live on Facebook? I've never like a live video. Oh, a live video on Facebook. That's how those conversations always go when I have them. stresses me out. I don't know how to respond.
You work on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I had to work on an intro. I'm real stuck on like having an intro. What do I say when we press the start button? Where do I put my hands?
Oh my gosh, that was forever ago. I love it. All right, guys. Until next time.
Thanks for coming, guys. Well, next Wednesday,
Charlie,
be live.
I know you just started this, but go back and check it out, man, because it's a good one. Thank you, everybody. Crystal, goodbye. Felicia, Charlie, Rick, Stephanie, other Rick, Crystal. I already said Crystal. Stephanie. Thank you, guys. Bye.